So Larry was nice enough to give us some introductory remarks about Sheila, but to look at the HBO documentary experience unto itself, the latest flush of them are more than just Oscar winners. They're newsworthy events. In The Jinx, Robert Durst confesses to a series of murders after evading charges for decades. Going Clear is a damning expose on Scientology and puts the controversial church on the defensive. The films make headlines, and the work gets noticed. From Esquire, 2015 is HBO's amazing, unbelievable year for documentaries, and the epicenter of great documentary cinema. Captaining the ship, as Larry mentioned, is Sheila Nevins, HBO's president of documentaries. Her team has carefully curated clips from some of HBO's groundbreaking nonfiction films. She says the video expresses HBO's vision and her life's work better than she ever could, and that you shouldn't miss a minute of it if you want to understand the full scope. Without further ado, we'll turn to her reel and then welcome Sheila to the stage to pull back the curtain on her work.
May I cut in?
Why, certainly.
Boys will be boys.
The downside of giving an interview is that the interviewer will take what I've said to make me look as bad as possible. The upside is that there will be something out there from me. I mean, this whole time since I've gotten out of prison, I've said nothing to nobody about anything. So people out there have gotten very used to the fact they can say anything you want because I'm never going to give an interview, so it's never going to be disputed.
Who are you?
Who are you, Kurt?
I'm Kurt Cobain.
I was underdeveloped, immature little dude that never got laid.
He hated being humiliated. You'd see the rage come out.
We were all we had. He was searching for whatever made him feel like he wasn't alone.
Are you getting all this?
Yes. 如果我们那时候在上课的话，我们全班人都不得伤亡。
全班人都不得伤亡。
啊，因为我们那是在上体育课的嘛。你是在哪儿前面？
就是这里，就是他们说。
这里是我们的学校。我们的教室在哪里？4楼。4楼。
他们说什么？这样这，跟着同学就3个空。他们好个牙齿。
虽然他们一路走好。
The word marriage has special meaning. It's why we're here today. I want to be able to share the joy and the happiness that my parents felt, that my brother felt, my friends, my coworkers, my neighbors, of having the opportunity to be married. He's the love of my life. I love him probably more than I love myself. I would do anything for him. I would put his needs ahead of my own.
When I'm building Legos, I feel like I can create my own world and kind of go into that place where, you know, everything is based on my rules. There's really no way of telling what I would be like if I didn't have progeria. I wish I could ride any roller coaster I wanted to ride, like, ever. Like, I wish I could, like, you know, do loop-de-loops and corkscrews and stuff and barrel rolls. Even though I'm, like, terrified of them, it would be, like, cool to know that I could try them out. I didn't put myself in front of you to have you feel bad for me. I put myself in front of you to let you know that you don't need to feel bad for me, because I want you to get to know me. This is my life. And this progeria is part of it. It's not a major part of it, but it is part of it.
Most people have a mommy and a daddy in your class, and you have 2 mommies. Did you ever want a daddy? No? I think a daddy might be fun. You know, when I was a kid, I did not have a mommy. Do you know what happened to my mommy? Died. Here you go, this one. So in my house, there was just a daddy and a grandma, like a very old grandma who didn't know how to cook. What kind of family you think you're gonna have when you get big?
I don't know.
You think you're gonna get married and have kids? What about Kai from school?
He's not even as old as me. He's 5.
Oh, he's 5 and you're 6?
Yeah.
Someone had told me there's this cult called Scientology, and if you give them all your money, they'll make anything possible in your life.
My goal wasn't to write an expose. It was simply to understand Scientology. I was interested in intelligent and skeptical people who are drawn into a belief system and wind up acting on those beliefs in ways they never thought they would.
मेरी शादी पहले दिन से ही खराब थी। इसको नशे की आदत थी, ये चर्स पीता था, शराब पीता था और पैसे भी ये लेता था। और जब तक मैं देती रही ये ठीक रहा मेरे साथ। और जब मेरे पास ख़त्म हो गए इसने गालियाँ देनी शुरू कर दी, मारना शुरू कर दिया। जब मैंने देखा कि हमारा गुजारा बिल्कुल नहीं हो सकता, मैं कोर्ट चली गई। तो कहते हैं कि तुम इससे तलाक चाहती हो, मैं तुम्हें मज़ा चखाऊंगा, मैं तुम्हें दुनिया के लिए इबरत बना दूंगा। ये कह के उन्होंने 1 मिनट नहीं लगाया, उन्होंने मुझे तेज़ाब दिया। और इसने डाला भी 1 नंबर था, बैटरियों वाला। तो उसने 1 सेकंड नहीं लगाया, 1 सेकंड में मेरी ज़िंदगी बर्बाद कर दी। 1 सेकंड।
The RPG just came straight through my shoulder and then exploded right next to my head, just behind me. I remember there was a very distinct moment when I finally realized what I was. I was an amputee from the war. If I ever have a kid, I wonder if they'll love me, like, for who I am. I hope so.
What were you just thinking about?
The reality of, you know, will I be able to raise a kid? I won't be able to pick up my son or daughter with 2 arms. I won't.
NYPD is hot on his trail, saying what he is doing around the 5 boroughs is vandalism. No one knows who he is or what he looks like, even though he's been around for quite some time.
With Banksy, you never know what happens tomorrow.
Good times and bum times, I've seen them all in my year. Still here. I got through all of last year, and I'm here. Christ knows, at least I was there, and I'm here. I'm still here. I've been very naughty.
You push the envelope. Push it, push it, push it.
You cannot be saved.
Please welcome HBO's President of Documentaries, Sheila Nevins, to the stage. She is here with Willie Geist, co-host of NBC's Today and MSNBC's Morning Joe.
How's everybody doing? That's quite an IMDb page that we just saw up there for Sheila Nevins. Thanks for spending some time with us today. When you watch up, we were backstage looking at all of those films, different subjects, a lot of them. But what's the common thread through a great documentary for you?
I guess ordinary people, anonymous people who you might not have known before, who have a story to tell that's possibly your story as well. Can you hear me with this? That's what I feel.
Let's see if, are we on?
Can you hear me
there
now?
There you go. There it is.
See how smart I am? I know when I'm not being heard. Believe me, I know when I'm Okay.
So common stories, people, humanity. Those are the
I
threads.
guess I've always felt that the person who brings you the soda is probably as interesting as the person who might be running a major corporation, a company, or a star of a movie. I don't know why, but I've always been interested in every man. You're too famous, I guess, for me to be interested in you.
Oh, no. No. It's a deep, deep lake
deep
of...
ordinariness.
Oh,
in you?
yes.
Oh,
It's ugly beneath
I feel
the surface.
Better. That doesn't mean we don't do celebrity. Believe me, I understand the value of celebrity. But I think the miracle of documentaries, for me, has always been that you can capture the imagination of an audience with someone they never met before. And that's a great gift, you know, to meet a little girl in Shanghai or to see a woman whose face has been scarred forever. These anonymous people have really true stories to tell that reverberate into change or not change, but they reverb into an audience, we hope. But that's... Did you ask me that question?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So you start...
Is this a lecture, or do you ask me?
You can lecture all you want. It's your show. I'll tee you up and you go. Okay. So you started, if I have it right, 1979 at HBO.
Yes.
You left for a while, kind of on and off there since.
Yes.
Was there ever a moment where you were going to veer off and do something else different? In other words, we're going to do feature films.
Oh, that's such a good question. You know, I am a child of the 60s. I'm still a child, but it's not the 60s anymore.
Yes.
I didn't have many options. I mean, I really wanted to direct theater. I had gone to the Yale Drama School, but there were no female directors, and I couldn't get a job, and I needed a job. I wasn't born into anything that allowed me not to have a job. And I started teaching English on television for United States Information Agency, and I got interested in being on the other side of the camera because there were jobs there. There were certainly no jobs in the theater for directors. And I kind of evolved into being interested in what television could do that was like theater, but with real people. And that was like I didn't wake up one morning. It just kind of evolved into that.
No, that's interesting. So you were never tempted by a feature film?
I don't think I allowed myself to be tempted by what I thought I couldn't attain. So I decided to stay in this circle called documentaries and steal from stories that were working. So when I began at HBO, like in the 1800s, I basically would see what movies were doing well, or what theater was doing well, and then I would move from that into other people telling those stories, or real people telling those stories. I borrowed from other people's success the germ of their idea. So I actually am a thief.
At least you confess to it.
I'm a popular culture thief.
So you're known as a bit of a magician in the documentary world. Everything you touch seems to turn to gold.
No.
Most of them do. Have you seen HBO lately? You're doing pretty well. So what is the secret at HBO? What is it that you do to a film? Take an example. That Andrew Jarecki comes to you with The Jinx.
Right.
Talk
That's
about
the one
process.
I probably had least influence on.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was pretty much completed. I shouldn't say completed. We pretty much knew where it was going. We had worked with Andrew before, and it was compelling from the get-go. It didn't require too much innovation on our part. It was really Jarecki's Durst. But I'm happy to take credit for it. If you want.
But there is something happening. I got a quote from Esquire wrote a couple of months ago. HBO is now the epicenter of great documentary cinema. So what is it about HBO? Is it the directors you choose? Is it the stories you choose? That's really what I'm driving at.
It's entirely about me, yeah. HBO is an incredibly fertile ground to grow in. And this is, I can say this freely because none of my bosses are here, so it won't look like I'm sucking up. It was very fertile because we were new, and we had to be different, and we had to grow. And those three things, the fact that the ground was fertile and that we had to plant and grow and be different and be worth paying for. Remember, at that time, television was free. I mean, advertising paid for your television. This was non-advertising television, so you had to literally sell tickets. It's called home box office. So the challenge was to be different, to be relevant, and to be worth paying for. And it's obviously taken 30 years to get that quote. So. We had a good year. You know, also there's something about HBO, and I've survived many bosses and many revolutions there, which is you are applauded for your success and you're not blamed for your failure, which gives you the freedom to fail, which is part of success. If you don't fail, how do you know what to do next time? So I think that it was an incredibly interesting place because I thought if you didn't get a good grade or a good rating, you'd be out. But it wasn't like that. And it wasn't like that from the beginning. And in a sense, although I think I did well at what I did and do, I think that I was in a place where you'd have to be pretty awful to do badly because it was a time for innovation. As the digital age today is the time for innovation, so at that time, television's expansion into cable was a time for innovation. So it's, you know, it was like a startup in many ways with a big Goliath, Time Life at the time, funding that startup. So, you know, is that the question?
Yeah, no, and I've heard Richard Plepler, who runs HBO, I've heard him say...
I thought I ran HBO.
Well, we all know you run it, but I had to say that publicly.
I think
that
Richard did, yeah.
He just wants to create a place where talented, creative people want to come work, whether it's Jarecki or Lena Dunham or John Oliver. It's that we like you, we love what you do, please come here, and the subscribers will come. We're not bound by ratings or anything else. That's kind of liberating, isn't it?
Entirely liberating. So when you fail, it's your own fault, so to speak, in the sense that there is the freedom to go out there and grab a story. I mean, we just did something. There was a play off-Broadway called Every Brilliant Thing, and we were looking for a way to do a film about suicide. And I looked at all the films that had been done about suicide, and suicide is actually growing in the United States, growing among black men, growing among middle-aged men, especially men who can't find jobs or who have lost their jobs or who are in underpaid jobs. So it was fertile, it was interesting, it was an audience, it was something that we could do something with. But what could we do that was different? And I see this play off-Broadway called Every Brilliant Thing, and it's about it's a British play. What does that have to do with HBO? You know, wah, wah, wah. I sit through this play, and I realize that this little boy, who's now a man, is talking about his mother's suicide, and that in an attempt to keep her from committing suicide, he collects brilliant things that he experiences that he gives to her, like chocolate ice cream or spaghetti and meatballs. And as he grows up, he collects all these brilliant things. And ultimately, she commits suicide anyway, and he finds genetically that he has a kind of bipolar gene and that he's somewhat depressed, and he wheels out this wheelbarrow of brilliant things. And we shot it. I mean, it's not gone on yet. It might be a failure. But it was a place where I could go to my boss and say, you know, Richard, I saw this play off Broadway, yeah, and I think it's got something in it that could make us different. It might not work, but it might work. And he said, well, then do it. No, that's not right. He said, how much will it cost? And then he said, well, then do it. And I said to my colleagues, you know, I said to Lisa, I said, I don't know if he really heard me, but let's just go do it. So we did it. So that's HBO. Go online, find a job.
You've had an incredible year, as you mentioned. Citizen4 won the Oscar for Best Documentary Film. We mentioned The Jinx, and Going Clear was the other one that seemed to have most people talking, Alex Gibney's film about Scientology. Can you talk about some of the challenges in presenting that movie to a wide audience?
Well, I'd like to say that I was not caught by surprise, that I knew all along that this would be a great film, and it would make a lot of noise, and it would be our highest rated documentary. I really didn't know that. I didn't find it particularly courageous to do it. I found it interesting, and it was interpreted as courageous, and then it was interpreted as, because it had celebrity in it, it became popular, and then the church attacked us for doing this thing, and then it became more popular, and then more people watched it, and then it wound up getting a great rating. But I can't say that I was there at the beginning, understanding. I knew it would be good because it was Alex. I knew it would be interesting because I always look up to see how many people have done the same idea or the same subject before. I knew it was time to do a documentary, but I didn't know it would be as big as it was. The controversy helped us. And so it was a great docu, but I can't say that I spotted it, although I spot most things very successfully.
Did you? How about for The Jinx then? Did you have the feel about that one? That one really took on a life of its own from week to week, and you could go back and catch up with it. Did you sense that going in?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jinx made my heart stop when we saw the very beginnings of it. I mean, it was like, oh my God, who is he? What is he doing? He has all the money in the world. You know, he's walking the streets. You know, poor kids are in jail. Who is this guy? Is he more than one guy? You know, it was not easy for Andrew to make this film. It was easy for us to understand that it was a film we should be involved in. So I don't seem to know very much. I seem to just be riding along.
You're the Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain. So we were watching the hit reel in the back there, and you pointed to we saw the young Japanese girl bowing and weeping, and you talked about some things that you're able to do in a documentary that even some journalists can't do.
Well, I mean, we have the advantage, in addition to being in a fertile ground still and adventurous, which I don't think I am personally, but where I work is quite adventurous. There was this tragedy in China. Why should we care about this tragedy? It was on the front page of the Times, and then it just disappeared. It was an earthquake. But we felt somehow there was a human toll, not 3,473, but there was a one story, and we always look for the one story in the multitude of stories, and we let the press sort of settle, and when it's no longer a hot or the first topic on a show, we try to feel if it will be right for us because it has the longevity of a human story or the longevity of humanity. And so as we looked at this microcosmic kind of earthquake, and we knew it came from a power plant in Fukushima, and we knew there was a story there. We sent we sort of matched the filmmaker to the story. We sent John Alpert to go there and see if there was a story of survival that gave you hope, but that didn't in any way diminish the tragedy with, I now value life more than I did before. We don't tell those kind of stories because a tragedy is a tragedy and it has repercussions that are not always golden, usually not golden. And so we went to tell a true story, and we found this child whose school had been destroyed, and her school had been destroyed because she had been in a bank. The school had been where a bank now was, but the bank grew as the economy grew in that area, and they moved the children to a less secure school, as it turned out, a secure building, as it turned out. And so the earthquake you saw in the picture, part of the structure remained. That was the bank structure. But the school was completely destroyed. And I thought it said a lot about life, money, injustice. And so we told the story. But that was an adventure. We didn't know if it would work. It's hard to say something like that works. Truth can often work, but it's painful. But we told it honestly, we told it well, and we told it pretty much through her eyes. That answer?
The clock has run out, but I've got about 4 more hours worth of questions for you. So let me just close by asking you, what are the jinx, going clear, these cultural phenomena that we'll be talking about in a few months?
Well, they may be anywhere. I don't know them by name.
Well, what are you working on that we haven't seen yet?
I'm working on a show on guns that is generated by social media. In other words, it's not someone getting up there and saying the NRA, blah, 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 blah. It's basically town by town, something about the 8,000 unnecessary deaths, not police deaths, not robbery deaths, but 8,000 citizen deaths that take place in the United States every year. And it's from the reports, from police tape, from the internet, and the cries of help of innocent people comes from the heartland of America, not from, pardon the expression, a narrator or an announcer. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a grandma calling and saying, my daughter's just been shot by her husband, and yesterday she told him that she wanted a divorce. Help me, help me. And then the police come. And so we didn't go to tell the story afterwards. We weren't there when it happened, but she was. And so we're hoping that film, which goes on at the end of June, captures the spring of last year. We call it Requiem, and it's for the spring of 2014, and we're putting it on in the spring of 2015. But it's an unusual style because the filmmakers never, ever left the computer or the police station or social media. So that's the one we're working on.
Good.
Is that good?
Sheila Nevins, thank you for what you do. We love watching. Thank you.